908, 909, 910, 911, 912, 913, 914, 915, 916, 917, 918, 919, 920, 921, 922, 923, 924, 925, 926, 927, 928, 929, 930, 931, 932, 933, 934, 935, 936, 937, 938, 939, 940, 941, 942, 943, 944, 945, 946, 947, 948, 949, 950, 951, 952, 953, 954, 955, 956, 957, 958, 959, 960, 961, 962, 963, 964, 965, 966, 967, 968, 969, 970, 971, 972, 973, 974, 975, 976, 977, 978, 979, 980, 981, 982, 983, 984, 985, 986, 987, 988, 989, 990, 991, 992, 993, 994, 995, 996, 997, 998, 999, 1,000, 1,001, 1,002, 1,003, 1,004, 1,005, 1,006, 1,007, 1,008, 1,009, 2010, 2011, 2012. Senator Adamu Aliru, Kebbi Central.
Thank you, Mr. President, distinguished colleagues. I remain Muhammad Adamu Aliru, representing Kebbi Central. I rise to move that the votes and proceedings of Tuesday, 6 November 2018 be approved, and I so move.
Senator Durufashi, Ikiti North.
Thank you, Mr. President. Durufashi, Senator Ikiti North, Senatorial District. I rise to second that the votes are proceeding on Tuesday, 6 November 2018 be approved. I so second.
Distinguished colleagues, those in favor that the votes and proceedings of Tuesday, 6 November 2018 be approved, say aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it. Votes and proceedings of Tuesday, 6 November 2018 is hereby approved. Announcements. I wish to acknowledge the presence of members of the Ego, Igboba, Oka, and Oredo Legislative Councils, Edo State, staff and students of Cherryfield Nursery and Primary School, Gwarimpa, Abuja, who are in our gallery to observe our Senate proceedings. I wish them a fruitful observation of the Senate proceedings. You may please sit down. Yes, point of order. Petitions, yes, sent over.
Mr. President, most distinguished colleagues, my name is Senator Andrew, representing Anambra South Senatorial District. Mr. President, I have a petition from one of my constituents, Mr. Eminebe, in regards to Federal Mortgage Bank. Can I lay the petition, Mr. President?
Yeah, go ahead. Any other petitions? Petitions refer to ethics and privileges. Report back in 2 weeks. Yes, point to order, Senator Baribe.
Thank you, Mr. President. My name is Naya Baribe, and I represent Abia South. I'm coming under two orders, Order 42 and 52. May I read? The matter for discussion, that is 42.1, shall, if possible, be referred to the President of the Senate before commencement of the day's sitting, and the President of the Senate shall refuse to allow the claim unless he is satisfied that the matter is definite and urgent. If the claim is allowed by the President of the Senate and the leave of the Senate is given by at least 1/5 of all senators, the matter shall stand over till the next legislative day. No more than one such motion may be made at the same sitting. 52. Notice shall not be dispensed with in the case of a motion or in respect of any proceedings for which notice is required, except with the consent of the President of the Senate and the general assent of the senators present. Mr. President, yesterday, the number 5 citizen of Nigeria and the Deputy President of the Senate apprised this Senate with an incident that happened in his home of an alleged assassination attempt. Just as Nigerians, we are grappling with the implications of such an incident to happen to a person that represents Nigeria at the topmost level. The police last night came out with a report in which it says that it was no more an assassination attempt after a preliminary investigation of a few hours, and now stated, which I will also lay these papers down to show, that it was a mere burglary.
Just before you proceed, let me, according to our rules, we need to get the leave of our colleagues for us to hear the motions. So those in favor say aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it. Carry on, Senator Barry.
Thank you, Mr. President, distinguished colleagues. We have all noted and we know that these days are very ominous days for politicians in Nigeria. These days are very difficult for most of us, especially for those who are politically exposed persons, as each and every one of us is here today. For the police to quickly, without even interviewing the very person for whom this incident happened to, that is the Deputy Senate President, his wife and his son, and come out that they have already determined that it was a burglary, actually boggles the mind. Because what it tells us is this, that each and every one of us, anything can happen to you, and the police will immediately come out and say, oh, this is what happened. But we know that in this country, Bola Ige was killed in his home. We know. And also it's a fact that the former gubernatorial candidate for PDP in Lagos State, Funsho Williams, was also killed in his home. And the investigations are still ongoing up to today. For the police to quickly and willy-nilly dismiss this home invasion that could have led to a fatality and say, oh, it's just a burglary. And what was their proof? That somebody else was burgled around the same. And nobody knows how they could have come to such a conclusion. So I would like the Senate not to just dismiss this matter, but ask for a thorough investigation to be carried. Because I know that in this country, if we want to do an investigation, we do it. I know that in this country, a general that was killed, they investigated until they found his body and they found where he was buried and they found, that means that if we insist on doing the right thing, we would do it. So our fear today is, why is the police engaging in a cover-up? Why is the police continually, at any time that it concerns people that do not have presidential oversight or presidential cover, they quickly come out and they have a report, very, very ready. We must go beyond this mere surface dress and look into this matter. I so submit.
Deputy Senate President.
Thank you, Mr. President.
Yes, come and read the two newspapers here.
Thank you, Mr. President. Distinguished colleagues, just before my colleagues will start contributing, I would like to probably give an update so that they will be guided. But let me start by thanking all of you, distinguished colleagues, for the uncommon show of concern since yesterday. I've also received calls from our friends in the international community, the media, traditional rulers, clergymen, and ordinary people of Nigeria, both at the social media and directly with me. So I'd like to thank all of us, all of you, for showing this uncommon concern. Your Excellency, you recall that yesterday I said that before I came to the chambers that I had not had any call or contact with the police in spite of the several calls I made to them that was not returned. But at about 1 o'clock, about 1:30 in the afternoon, the Deputy Inspector General of Police in charge of operations came to my house and he said that it was the IG who sent him to come and see me.
He came with the Commissioner of Police in charge of the FCT. I showed them around, and of course, they were very sympathetic of what happened. So I was shocked when I woke up this morning to read that police said that what happened in my house was a mere case of burglary. I'm at a loss because as we speak, they have not taken statement from my son who was hospitalized. They have not gone to the hospital to find out exactly what happened to my son. They've invited security personnel attached to me. Few reported yesterday, some are still reporting this morning, including my ADC. They have not taken their statement, and they came to the conclusion that what happened was a mere case of burglary. They looked at the CCTV footage operated by the DSS staff in my house. Apparently, they were not able to figure it out. And so it was easy for them to quickly dismiss what happened. Unfortunately to them, later yesterday evening, a technician came and was able to figure out, able to produce the CCTV footage of everything that happened, including how people gained entrance into my house, and how they got all the way to my room, the fight that ensured between them, myself, my wife, and my son, and all the effort we made to save our lives. I'm happy that we have that in our custody, which the police is not aware of. And I'm sure that Nigeria will be shocked at what transpired, all the effort we made to save our lives. Now that the police appears to have concluded the case, unless they withdraw the statement that it's a mere case of burglary, I may now be forced to release those footage to the media, to the international community, and to my colleagues. Let Nigerians and ordinary people judge whether it was a case of burglary or an attempt to kill me, kill my son, and kill my wife, or probably they had just come back before I'm in my house to have a handshake with me or probably have a breakfast. Nigerians will be able to judge that. But as was said by our brother Aberibe, we've had cases in the past where people lost their lives in similar circumstances. So I'm happy that I'm alive to tell my own story. And so whatever they want to do is up to them. But let me know that other Nigerians should be safe and be able to enjoy the protection of the police, which they pay for. So that was exactly why we had to raise this issue, so that they're able to find out what happened, to enable them to do their work better, not for them to sympathize with me. No, I want them to understand actually what happened and be able to use it as a process, as an indication how others can be protected, and Nigerians to also know how they can also take care of their personal security. So it is unfortunate that police is now saying what happened was a mere case of burglary. It appears to me that the man who said that may not even understand what burglary is all about. And he doesn't need any teacher. All he needs to go to the internet and find out what burglary is all about. He can now superimpose it with what happened in my house. He will now determine whether it was burglary or a case of attempted assassination. So having said this, I also say that I thank my associates, especially my constituents and Nigerians in general from different parts of Nigeria, who have volunteered to provide security for me. I got calls from all parts of the country, people who said they can come to my house with their matches and then gun to provide security for me. So if the police had failed to do that. So if they fail to withdraw the statement, maybe I have to accept those offers so that Nigerians from all walks of life with their matches and their then gun can come and reside with me. And those who want the cause to provide security for them, because we've lost confidence in our security system, especially the police. But I don't want that to be our portion. We pay for this. We want to have a police system that works for everybody. The one that's responsible, we should be proud of. Our police people have shown professionalism when they're out of this country and made all of us proud. For us to have a police today that instead of investigating the matter and trying to cover it up is quite rather unfortunate. I expected the police to do a thorough investigation, not a 2 hours job and then come up and with a conclusion. I just do hope that they'll take advantage of this discussion we're having today to withdraw that statement and probably go and do a better job and tell Nigeria exactly what happened. So on this note, again, I want to thank all of you for your concern.
Yes, Senator Mao.
Mr. President, distinguished senators, my name is Senator Mao Arupe North. Mr. President, I want to put it clear for Nigerians to know that what we are asking of is that due process should be followed. What we're asking for is that there should be proper investigation, because it's quite amazing at the speed and the haste with which the police PRO comes out to give conclusion or to give a report about serious cases that needed proper and thorough investigation. Mr. President, let's look at this case as it's been stated. Something that just happened, and he reported that he made calls, several calls, and none was returned. And about 1:30 or so yesterday, the DIG came on behalf of the IG for solidarity call or visit. Now they've arrested somebody. Somebody's already arrested. What investigation have you done? Those who were not, those who escaped, you've not arrested them. So how can we come to a conclusion that is mere burglary? Mr. President, nobody burgles into any place without an internal compromise. And looking at the house and the residence of a person of the nature of the Senate President, where security is very tight, for anybody to just go for mere burglary, you must be a suicide. Well, I don't even know if that is. You must be a suicide burglar, because you know that that place, for you to go into burgle, if it's mere to burgle, then you must be taking your life at very high risk. So I don't want to say either we concluding that it's assassination or not. But what we're asking the police is that take pains to conduct proper investigation, professional investigation, so that when you come out with your report, then people will agree with you. But when you come out and dismiss it, or it's mere burglary, and for the fact that they burgle other houses, Mr. President, I think this is completely unacceptable. And I think we have to ask the police to be a little more professional in their action and ways of doing things. So I want to state that it is important that we insist that the police should do thorough investigation, not only for this, for other cases that affect Nigerians, not only those in authority or at a higher level, but proper investigation should be done so that we can avert future occurrence. Thank you.
Senator Dino Milai.
Mr. President, my very respected colleagues, Dino Melaye, Kogi West. Mr. President, the truth have no volume, so we should speak it at all times. I am surprised, Mr. President, how hastily the police responded to a very serious case. Again, the Nigerian police exhibited very myopic, porous, and intellectually stagnant approach to a very serious matter. To start with, Mr. President, burglary is not mere. You cannot describe a case of burglary as mere. Anyone who is engaged in burglary definitely have satanic intentions. And it is burglary, Mr. President, that leads to assassination. Because before you get access to an unauthorized premises or milieu, you first have to look for a means of getting into that vicinity. So you can't actually carry out burglary with the intention to assassinate somebody. So that issue of burglary can only be an access to carry out a devilish and wicked intention. So to come out and address burglary as mere, and not to know that burglary can lead to assassination, automatically puts it that the Nigerian police have identified some individuals that no matter what happened, we will not get their service. As I speak to you, Mr. President, I have been arraigned by the same police in 6 different courts. My policemen have been withdrawn. If this had happened, Mr. President, to one of the faithfuls of Mr. President, this is not going to be the reaction of the Inspector General of Police. If this has happened to one of the close friends of the villa, This is not going to be the reaction of the Inspector General of Police. Mr. President, how long shall we continue in sin and ask grace to abound? We must call a spade a spade. The seat of the Deputy President of the Senate of the Federal Republic of Nigeria is not a joke. The most annoying, Mr. President, I listened to Moshood Jimo yesterday. In his conclusion, Mr. President, he said it is not only the residence of Ike Ekweremadu that was burgled, that so many other houses were burgled. The implication of that, Mr. President, is that it is normal. Burglary is a normal thing. He said it's not only his residence. Mr. President, this is appalling, this is unacceptable, and should not be treated. It could have been any Nigerian. But the police owe it as a duty to provide security for all Nigerians irrespective of status. So this morning, Mr. President, we must not be afraid of the system. Government does not belong to those in government. Government belongs to the people. And we are here to speak for the people. And we should take resolutions and conclusions that will give the people confidence that we are living in a secured environment. And if this can happen to the Deputy President of the Senate, I wonder what will happen to the poor palm white tapper in Umuleri. I wonder what will happen to the Baduku in Katsina. I wonder what will happen to the poor Fura de Nunu seller in Marafa. Mr. President, this should be taken seriously. Our resolutions must be strong enough to check this unbecoming attitude of the Nigerian police. I so speak.
Senator Chiusani.
I stand as Senator Chiusani from the People's Redemption Party. Mr. President, thank you for this opportunity. Mr. President, all has been said about the attempted assassination of the Deputy Senate President. But what we should be conscious of is that the right to life is under serious threat in Nigeria today. We must draw examples to what has happened in our recent past. We have seen the barbaric and callous murder of Agom Adara from Kaduna, and his body was dumped. We have seen the barbarous murder, cruel murder of General Ali in Plateau State, and he was dumped in a ditch. What is the definition of murder? Should we wait until a person is killed before the state believes that there was a serious threat to his life? I think in the last few months, in the last few years, we have been unable to take the issue of right to life very seriously. Bandits kill, insurgents kill, herdsmen kill, police kill, soldiers kill. We have become one large minefield of killings. We should take this very seriously, not because it happens to one of us here, but what is on the ground is that the life of every Nigerian is at stake. We can have a killer burglar, and that was what happened in the house of DSP Ike Ekweremadu. If we continue on this phase, not taking it seriously, until one of us is killed, then we come here and lay flowers and do 1 minute silence, send a delegation to his village. I don't think that is in the best interest of this country. Mr. President, this parliament must come with a very strong resolution, a message that should be sent to the security agencies of this country. The need for us and the need for them to stand up to their responsibility and address the issue of insecurity in this country. Thousands of people have been killed, and each time it hits the headline and then it gradually disappears out of our national discourse. For such to happen, And for it to be dismissed as a mere burglary, it simply shows that there is an attempt to cover up. The police need to do a thorough investigation. They don't have to wait until people are killed and then they say they will get to the root of the matter. Lives have been lost as a result of the inability of the security agencies to do their job. And I believe on this, we should lay an example that will inspire our policemen to stand up and provide service, and that will also draw a red line that on the DSP should this stop. Thank you very much.
I'll go to the prayers here. The prayer says that the security agencies should thoroughly investigate the assassination attempt of the Deputy Senate President. Those in favor say aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it. I think also while we're addressing this issue, I want us to also take up an issue that we had brought up here, the issue of the police reform bill, which we had put forward and should have by now should have gone for public hearing and come to pass. I think that issues that will address the bringing professionalism to the force, because what we are seeing here is that there's lack of leadership in providing a non-partisan, a professional approach to some of these issues. And I think that when we pass the second reading of the police reform bill, we need to fast track that so that we can pass that bill that will effectively address some of these issues. So if I have the blessing of the team, we'll put a motion as a second prayer for us to see that we pass this police reform bill within the shortest. If somebody can raise that motion that within the next 2 weeks, we should please do the public hearing and bring it for passage. Yes, Manager Leader.
Mr. President, I move the motion that we fast track the police reform bill and ensure a quick passage. I so move.
Second, who is seconding that? Yes, Matthew Rogide.
Thank you very much, Mr. President. I'm Senator Matthew Rogide. I represent the good people of Edo South Central District. I stand to second the motion ably moved by Senator Olujimi that the police reform bill be expeditiously considered by the Senate. I so second.
Distinguished colleagues, those in favor of the prayer that we do pass the police reform bill and say that within the 2 weeks we'll complete exercise. Those in favor say aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it. Distinguished. Point of order, Minority Leader.
Thank you, Mr. President, distinguished colleagues. I come under Order 42 and 52, and I read as follows. The matter of discussion shall, if possible, be referred to the President of the Senate before commencement of the day's sitting, and the President of the Senate shall refuse to allow the claim unless it is satisfied that the matter is definite and urgent. 52 says, notice shall not be dispensed with in the case of a motion in respect of any other proceedings for which notice is required, except the consent of the President of the Senate and the general assent of the senators present. Mr. President, I bring a motion, a matter of urgent public importance, and it has to do with the issue of the special intervention fund being used now.
Distinguished colleagues, as according to our rules, I will need the leave of our colleagues for us to take the motion. Those in favor say aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it. Carry on.
Thank you very much, Mr. President. Mr. President, I was at home over the weekend, and a few events had happened while I was there. Most of them had to do with the politicization of the special intervention funds as released by the ministries. Mr. President, right now the funds are being used for political reasons, and they are being dispensed and given freely to people who can bring up their PVCs and sign several forms for which the issuers are now in charge. Mr. President, one of the forms is here with me, and it is being disbursed by the Special Intervention Body. They are now using the funds that is meant for all Nigerians for political reasons. These ones have "I stand with Buhari" on it. And it also has a place where your PVC will be written with your gender and an attachment from the Access Bank where money will be dispensed to you. Mr. President, there is no corruption greater than people using our collective purse to maintain a political party. Mr. President, there is a need for a committee to be set up to look into this issue. And the Senate must be aware that the money that is being put there is not for a political party, but for the entire nation. There has to be a high-powered ad hoc committee, bipartisan, that must look into this. Yes. It is an election year, and people are using these funds for reasons that are not the best, to buy PVCs and put them to use on election day. Thank you, Mr. President.
Leader.
Mr. President,
distinguished colleagues, Senator Adiola Olamileko. Senator Adiola, distinguished colleagues, no. Distinguished colleagues, this drama that is going on is unnecessary. This matter, the minority leader has spoken, the majority leader has the floor. Let him speak. Senator Dino Milai, go back. Senator Dino Milai, go back to your seat. Leader.
Mr. President.
Don't worry, Steve has seen you.
Mr. President, very distinguished colleagues.
Distinguished colleagues, please. Yeah. Leader, go ahead.
Thank you very much, Mr. President. Mr. President. Mr. President.
Point of order. Senator Dino Milai, point of order. What is your point of order? Which point of order?
43.
President, my respected colleagues, Dino Melaye, Kogi West. Mr. President, I am reading Order 43 of the Rules of the Senate. By the indulgence of the Senate and the leave of the President, a senator may make personal explanation. Mr. President, this Senate is governed by rules. There is a subsisting motion on the ground, and by our rules, that motion needs to be seconded first before you can take contributions. The leader, Mr. President, the motion, there is a motion on ground, and that motion needs to be seconded before a debate can be made on that motion. You cannot take debate before seconding that motion. So we need to second that motion before you can take debate on that motion.
Yeah, Senator Dino, so can you refer me to where that... Okay, in the meantime, Leader.
Thank you very much, Mr. President. Mr. President, very distinguished colleagues. Mr. President, I've listened very attentively and carefully to the motion raised by the Senate Minority Leader, Senator Abiodun Olujimi. Mr. President, let me say,
Order, please. Order.
Let me say from the onset that the social intervention program of this administration is computer-based, very transparent. For the first time in the history of Nigeria, a government. Mr. President,
Order, please.
I thought,
Order.
Mr. President, for the first time in the history of social intervention program in Nigeria, we have a foolproof system that anywhere you may be in Nigeria, from whichever part of this country you could be, you would apply online. Mr. President, we listened. I don't want us to go this line, but if our colleagues on the left-hand side, if the minority party feels that we should not be listened to, that will be unfortunate. Mr. President, what she showed is certainly not true. Let me say that so far, I will not talk like that. I will only talk when we are quiet.
Point of order then. Okay, leader. Leader, let me take the point of order there. I have a point of order. Albert, Senator Albert, what's the point of order?
Thank you, Mr. President. My name is Senator Albert Bassi, Akwa Ibom Northeast. Mr. President, I come under Order 49 and Order 55
52. Order 49, Mr. President, reads. The question on any motion or amendment shall not be proposed from the chair in the Senate unless it shall have been seconded. But in committee, a seconder shall not be required. 52, sir. 52, sir. Excuse me, sir. 55-2. 55-2, Mr. President. 55-2, Mr. President. During the debate on all motions and bills, the President of the Senate shall allow speeches for the proposal first, followed by speeches against the proposal, Mr. President. Yes. Mr. President, the minority that came under Order 42 and Order 52 and brought forward a motion. That motion needs to be seconded first, then the chair will take speeches for the motion before attending to speeches against the motion. Yes. I sorry, sir.
Distinguished colleagues, I think we are wasting more time. Let's just go to the substance. We have easily have made progress by now. Leader will have finished speaking. And leader will have finished speaking, and I've asked somebody to second the motion, and will have finished and concluded. But listen, because many a times from here we have done it in that manner. With all due respect, let us make progress. Distinguished colleagues, let us make progress with this. We have many things to do. Leader has almost concluded. After that, somebody will second the motion, and then we put it to vote and we move on. Why are we wasting time on issues that we can have time today? Leader, complete what you are doing, and then I'll ask somebody to second the motion. Then we'll make progress.
Mr. President, very distinguished colleagues, Mr. President, once again, let me start by saying that for the first time in the history of social intervention program by the federal government of Nigeria ever, that we have a system that is computer-based, that you may come from whichever part of Nigeria. Mr. President, this I want to be listened to.
This thing will be over in a few minutes. Let him finish what he said, then we move.
Mr. President, Mr. President, I expect the chair to be party colorless. I expect the chair to be party blind. Thank you, sir. Mr. President, this administration you know, it's quite interesting. I hope Mr. President, this chamber is not our chamber. This chamber belongs to Nigerians. We are only representing them. If the minority leader could lay claim to certain issues and we listen, I think it behoves on all of us to listen to others, and that is maturity. This chamber, therefore, should be quiet for us to debate this. Everyone should have his say. Mr. President, the social intervention program, which has many facets, has so far been the most successful social intervention program in the history of Nigeria. Mr. President,
distinguished colleagues, let us please let him, so that the sooner we move on. Please, carry on, leader.
Mr. President, we have as a country inherited thank you very much. We have as a country inherited poverty that the PDP administrations from 1999 to 2015 forced on Nigerians. We inherited empty treasury. They embezzled everything. They squandered everything. Mr. President, Nigerians were impoverished, and therefore it became necessary to entrench a system under the office of the Vice President, who has shown complete transparency, accountability, and probity in this program. Mr. President, by the way, we were all here when Shuapi or Anshuapi was instituted and all the money in our treasury was stolen. Mr. President, let me say clearly, I have no objection to investigating. I have no objection to investigating what she has raised. But what I want is for the minority leader or indeed any other person in the chamber to take this and turn it into a partisan political football. Mr. President, I want to convince everybody here that those Mr. President, let me tell all of us here that what we have there, what we have there is not a matter that we need to fight over. It's an allegation. As far as I'm concerned, I know the Shuapi failed in the past, and nobody, no matter how deeply partisan that person is, can mess up this so successful social intervention program. Therefore, I want to submit that she should surrender these documents. We set up a committee, or you do whatever you think is in the interest of Nigeria. You do whatever you think as a presiding officer as the best for this country. We cause an investigation, a non-partisan, a party-blind investigation, And I want to assure you that we are going to cooperate, but finally, before I sit down, we have never had a social program that, just listen, that people who are not adherents or supporters or sympathizers of APC benefited even much more than our states. So many states that are non-PDP have benefited much more than our states, and that is to show that we are for Nigeria's interest. All we want is to ensure that those Nigerians who have been impoverished by the previous PDP administrations are revived. With that, I want to thank you for giving me an opportunity.
Distinguished colleagues, distinguished colleagues, please, before we go to point of order, please, I think that we will have saved a lot of time if we had just listened to the leader. At the end of the day, it's clear that all of us here are in the interest of Nigerians, and we're on the same side. No member of parliament should ever be against any type of investigation. But he has the right to express his own views, of his own perception of the program, and we should have listened to that. And I think there's no need for us to take any more contribution. This is a simple prayer. The simple prayer here is to call for an investigation in a non-partisan matter and look into the matter. Those in favor say aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it. And we'll form up an ad hoc committee, lay that. I'll take addition. So we'll set up an ad hoc committee that will do that. Any additional prayer on this?
Mr. President.
Prayer, is it? Additional prayer? Huh? Additional prayer, yeah.
Mr. President, my name is Senator Barrow Jibrin. I represent Kano North. That the ad hoc committee should also investigate the implementation of the Sure P policy since its inception to the end of Jonathan administration. I so move.
Any seconder? Senator Gobri.
Thank you very much, Your Excellency, distinguished colleagues. I hereby second the motion, heavily presented by Jibrin Barrow, so that we can do that.
Yeah, before I put the question, what's your point about that? Yeah?
Mr. President, my distinguished colleagues, my name is Seinaya Baribe. I represent Abia South. My order is order 59-2. When the motion that the question now be put has been carried, and the question consequent thereon has been decided, any further motion may be made if the assent of the chair is not withheld, which may be required to bring to a decision any question already proposed. We have already finished. We have finished. The chair has ruled. The chair has ruled.
Distinguished ranking Senator Baribe, I think that point of order is overruled. So let me take the prayer. There's a prayer, there's a motion on. So can I take those in favor of the additional prayer, say aye. Those against say nay. Distinguished colleagues, I'm hearing a, so I rule that the additional prayer is granted. I think distinguished colleagues, as a parliament, as a chamber, we must always be for any type of investigation. I don't think it does not. What are we running away from? We want things fair to Nigerians, so I think it should be done. Any other prayer? Huh? Yeah, right.
Additional prayer. Order, please. Additional prayer. Order.
Additional prayer, sir. Order. Order. Order, please. Mr. Order. Additional prayer, sir. The additional prayer is that this Senate commend the federal government for taking this very laudable initiative of the social intervention program that address this.
Leader of the Senate. Next item on order paper. Leader of the Senate. Point of order. Point of order, Senator Barao Jibrin.
Mr. President, I am Senator Barao Jibrin. I represent Kano North. Mr. President, I want to come under Order 42 and under. I want to come under Order 42 and 52. With your permission, I read. The matter for discussion shall, if possible, be referred to the President of the Senate before commencement of the day's sitting, and the President of the Senate shall refuse to allow the claim unless he is satisfied that the matter is definite and urgent. If the claim is allowed by the President of the Senate and the leader of the Senate is given by at least 1/5 of all the senators, the matter shall stand over till the next legislative day. 52, Mr. President, notice shall not be dispensed with in the case of a motion or in respect of any other proceeding for which notice is required, except with the consent of the President of the Senate and the general assent of the senators. Mr. President, you may recall that I met you and we discussed about the strike action being embarked on by ASU.
Distinguished colleagues, in line with our rules, I need the leave of our members for us to take this motion. Those in favor say aye. Those against say nay. Those in favor say aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it. Yeah. Carry on.
Mr. President, matter of urgent national importance. The Senate is aware that the Academic Staff Union of Universities has 2 days ago declared an indefinite industrial action by which all federal universities are to be shut down until further notice. Realizing that ASU had not too long ago embarked upon a strike action to press its demands for improvement in the funding of public universities and the payment of accumulated end allowances. Recalls that these issues had been determinants of the relationship between the union and the federal government for several years before now, during the era of successive administrations. Notes that the grievances of the academic community are made to federal government on each defining occasion, demonstrated its willingness to go into dialogue with the ASU, which has resulted in a number of agreements. Further notes that in the true spirit of his good intention towards ASU, the federal government in the last 2 days promised the release of 20 billion to the union. Conscious of the disruptive consequences of another ASU strike on the nation's education and the need to safeguard the educational progression of our university students, further aware that the nation's economy is still fragile, occasioned by the declining revenue from oil resources, convinced that there is now an urgent need for the federal government and the Academic Staff Union of universities to resolve all the contending issues through dialogue in order to arrive at a common ground of understanding. Urge the Federal Ministry of Education and its labor and employment counterpart to urgently act to amicably resolve all the issues that are in contention in order for ASU to immediately call off its fresh strike action. Mr. President, I so submit.
Yes, Senator Shiosani.
Thank you, Mr. President. Thank you for the motion raised by my brother, Senator Jibrin Barau. Well, Mr. President, the ASU strike is a national problem in the very sense that since 1992, Nigerians have been faced with strikes after strikes, which led to the closure of universities and untold suffering on both the lecturers and students. The issues raised by ASU are germane. The federal government needs to fund public universities. The issues raised by ASU is in the best interest of education in Nigeria and is also in the best interest of our young people. Our universities need adequate funding. Our universities need adequate attention. The strike should not be seen as an act of confrontation, but an attempt by ASU to bring to spotlight the plight of public universities in Nigeria. Public universities have been so grossly underfunded, and sometimes people wonder whether the universities we have are simply glorified secondary schools. This motion should be an opportunity for each and every one of us to draw the attention of the authorities that are concerned to fund universities, to listen to ASU, and to see that the issues which they raised are squarely addressed. We cannot afford to have our universities closed year after year. There's a need for us to look at the issues that were raised. Are they in the interest of the universities? Are they in the interest of the students? Are they in the interest of the future of education in Nigeria? Well, they are very much in the interest of those. So I demand and I call on the Senate to accede to the demands of ASU. ASU represent the best for education, and their position is in the best interest of education in Nigeria. Thank you very much.
Yes, Senator Mao.
Mr. President, distinguished Senator Mao. Mr. President, I want to align myself with the last speaker in as much as I thank my brother for bringing up this motion. But I think it's important that government should begin to live up to its responsibility. Because I'm privileged to be the Deputy Chairman of Senate Committee on Labor, Employment and Productivity. Mr. President, you will recall that in the last ASU strike, you intervened on behalf of this Senate, and ASU came up with their catalog of agreements already reached with government that were not kept, and you promised them on behalf of the Senate and indeed the government that those conditions will be looked into and government will implement them. But from records available to us as we speak, nothing has happened. And if you look at the request of ASU as at today, they are not even asking for increment of salary. They are asking for provision of materials to work with. We had earlier talked about brain drain. Most of our best brains left this country because of lack of equipment to work with. And I think government had promised and gone into an agreement. I think it behoves on us to stand as a parliament to call the executive arm of this government to please implement the agreement reached with ASU. As simple as that. And we, as if possible, we should look at it, and if it requires appropriation, let's put hands together. They are talking about education, and if they are on strike, our students will be home loitering about and doing nothing. So I want to support that we should look at these issues critically, ensure that those agreements already reached and there was an signed, government should implement their own part of it. But we also use to ask us to tamper justice with mercy.
Let me go straight to the prayer. The prayer says, urge the Federal Minister of Education and his labor and employment counterpart to urgently act to amicably resolve all the issues that are in contention in order for us to immediately call off his fresh strike action. Those in favor say aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it. I think in line with what those who have contributed, it's apart from calling off the strike, it's important that federal government does honor the agreements, existing agreements that have been reached as soon as possible so that this matter can be called off, and ASU should also bear in mind the interests of all Nigerians in ensure that they find an amicable solution to this. Leader of point of order, Senator Dino Milai.
Mr. President, my very distinguished colleagues, Dino Milai, Kogi West. Mr. President, I draw celestial inspiration from Order 42 and 52 of the Senate rules. The matter of discussion shall, if possible, be referred to the President of the Senate before commencement of the day sitting, and the President of the Senate shall refuse to allow the claim unless it's satisfied that the matter is definite and urgent. 52, Mr. President, notice shall not be dispensed with in the case of a motion or in respect of any other proceedings for which notice is required except the consent of the President of the Senate and the general assent of the senators present. Mr. President, I'm drawing our attention this morning to the very precarious situation we find ourselves as a nation. Nigeria's water sector is in a critical condition. And I have with me here, Mr. President, the World Bank Group report on water situation in Nigeria. It is alarming. It calls for an emergency. And that is why I brought it as a matter of urgent national importance. If I have the nod of my colleagues, I want to intimate us with these facts so that we can make hay while the sun shines. Mr. President, that's my prayer.
Esteemed colleagues, according to our rules, we'll take the leave. Those in favor say aye. Those against say nay. Go ahead, Senator.
My respected colleagues, Nigeria water sector is in critical condition. Mr. President, my respected colleagues, the Senate notes that access to piped water on premises in urban areas declined from 32% in the 90s to 7% today. This is this is World Bank report that pipe-borne water on premises have declined from 32% today to 7%. And in rural areas, it has declined to 1%. And I think the rural populace deserve more attention than even the urban centers. The Senate notes that Nigeria needs to invest at least 3 times more than what it does today to achieve the SDGs targets. Nearly 30% water points and water schemes fail within first year of operation. The Senate therefore observed, Mr. President, that in Nigeria, 71 million people continue to live without access to improved water, while 130 million people do not meet the MDG standards for water supply. The lack of water services adversely affects individuals' health, hinders their access to educational and economic opportunities, and affects their work efficiency and labor productivity. Mr. President, the Senate is worried that Nigeria lags behind other countries. Access to piped water on premises in urban areas dropped from every 10 persons in the 90s to less than 1 person today. The Senate is aware that improving the water sector will have significant implications for poverty reduction and human development outcomes. Mr. President, my respected colleagues, UNICEF and other donor agencies invest in water projects in Nigeria. However, budgetary provisions for rural water projects are embezzled, and World Bank, UNICEF projects
are used as justifications for supposed government interventions. The Senate accordingly resolved to Mr. President to direct the Committee on Water Resources to carry out a holistic investigation into the declining state of water provisions in Nigeria and investigate the various corruption intervention by international donor agencies. The Senate urged the federal government to embark on long-term commitments to finding pathways for better water delivery in Nigeria. Thirdly, Mr. President, the Senate urged the federal government to invest in closing implementation gaps, supporting services, delivering capabilities in the water sector, and promoting greater integration of private sector into the water sector. Mr. President, I am very worried that from 32% of piped water supply in Nigeria, there is an outrageous decline to 7% in urban center and 1% in the rural areas. This is a national emergency because as a country, our fundamental obligation in the Constitution is that government must cater for the security and the welfare of the people. There can be no better welfare than the provision of water. And the World Bank Group have called the attention of the world to the impending danger that this water situation will cause in Nigeria. People are suffering and hungry. If water then becomes part of it, then automatically, Mr. President, it will have resultant effects on our health, on our labor productivity, and on the economy of this country. I will not want to belabor us with unnecessary commentaries, but I think it is a matter of national urgency that the poor masses of this country be protected by this Senate that will provide, energize government to carry out ameliorative measures, palliative measures, to make sure that piped water, potable water is made available, especially to the rural communities. Finally, Mr. President, I have done my personal investigation, and I know that UNICEF and World Bank and some other donor agencies have done significantly well in providing rural water, providing water, potable water for rural dwellers. But every year we roll out billions of naira, budget after budget, for the same purpose, and these monies are not returned back to the treasury. And year in, year out, there is nothing to show for it. My investigation reveals that projects embarked upon by these donor agencies, World Bank and UNICEF and others, is what the Ministry of Water Resources is using as justification for the provisions in the budget for those services. So there's a need for our Committee on Water Resources to carry out a holistic investigation, find out this corruption, and then provide solution to this impending danger of lack of water, potable water to Nigerians. Mr. President, I so move.
Yes, Senator Baribe.
Thank you, Mr. President. Eina Baribe, Abia South. I rise to second this motion, very ably moved by our dear friend, Senator Dino Melaye, on something that is very, very fundamental to us as citizens of Nigeria. Mr. President, I want to state that today it is a shame, it is a big shame that I grew up in the city of Aba having pipe-borne water where I grew up. But today, it's only in Abuja that I can see, and not just in the whole of Abuja, but part of Abuja, that you can see something called pipe-borne water. That we have regressed from where we were in the 60s to where we are today at the dawn of the 21st century. It's a big shame to Nigeria as a nation. Whereas everywhere else in the world, people are moving forward in provision of all these amenities to their people. Today we are working, we have done one step forward and 10 steps backward. I fully subscribe to everything that Senator Dino has said. It cannot be seen that at the beginning of the 21st century, that what we're doing is just to provide boreholes. We should be providing potable water through pipes into every household in this country. And something needs to be done. So I support that an investigation, I support that an inquiry be made by the Committee on Water to find out what has happened to the millions of naira, millions of dollars, and the millions of euros that have gone into through the ministry and the donor agencies to provide water for our people. I fully support that investigation because it will be mind-boggling for us to see exactly what has happened with our resources and the resources of those that they have given to us. I so support.
Thank you, Mr. President. Distinguished colleagues, I remain Mohammed Adamalero, representing Kebbi Central. Mr. President, let me start by commending Senator Dino Malai for bringing this very important motion. It is true that there is a serious decline in the supply of water, particularly in the rural areas. It is also true that millions of dollars have been donated by international agencies for provision of water supply, but the money has not been efficiently utilized. I therefore support the idea of conducting legislative investigation into this. Mr. President, it's a shame that in most Nigerian cities, we don't have potable drinking water or pipe-borne water. Even our neighbors, Niger Republic, Benin Republic, Cameroon, their state capitals, they have 24-hour supply of drinking water. But regrettably here in Abuja, we don't have it. We rely heavily on borehole. Even areas like Mitama, people are relying on borehole to get water for domestic use. It is worse in the rural areas where people have to go and dig, where people have to go and collect water from the rivers. And that's why we have outbreak of cholera and other waterborne diseases ravaging our rural communities. I therefore support holistic investigation on this matter, and probably not only the Water Resources Committee, another relevant committee that I believe should also be added is the Committee on Works, because they go together. So I second this motion and I support all the prayers associated with it. Thank you, Mr. President.
I think you said let me go straight to prayers. It's pretty straightforward. Okay, Senator Butcher, then we'll go straight to prayers.
Thank you, Mr. President. Very distinguished colleagues. Mr. President, to me is to emphasize the importance of this motion moved by Senator Dino. I am by the grace of God, in the Senate Committee on Water Resources, and I have been monitoring activities of the ministry over the past 3 years. It is not just to say this, but let me draw our attention to a recent incident that happened in the high-brow areas of Maitama and maybe part of Wuse too. The earth tremor that was reported. And I'm sure most of us are aware that the cause of this was actually largely attributed to the number of boreholes that is being sunk around these areas. And I think if the agency or the ministry responsible for supply of water, providing water to the people of this city, were doing it work, there would have been no need for sinking all these boreholes all over the place. This is actually a serious threat to the lives of the people who are in the FCT. And the reason is simple. It's not as if there are no funds being provided for this sector. Like he said, this money is being actually mismanaged. I think we need to look very, very seriously into this. And I must say, without fear of contradiction, that the ministry needs to do more. Mr. President, I can tell you for the past 1 month, we've been trying to access the Minister of Water Resources. It has been very difficult. To get him to come to interface with the committee is a problem. We don't know whether it is their local politics in Jigawa or whatever, but I think he needs to do more. Having said this, I want to support that this chamber should set up a very serious committee to look into this matter of the water sector that needs to be addressed very seriously. Thank you, Mr. President.
We'll go straight to the prayers. There are 2 prayers here. Prayer 1, direct the Committee on Water Resources to carry out a holistic investigation into the declining state of water provision in Nigeria and investigate the various corruption interventions by the international donor agencies. Those in favor of prayer 1 say aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it. Prayer 2, urge the federal government to embark on long-term commitment to finding pathways for better water delivery in Nigeria. Those in favor of prayer 2 say aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it. Prayer 3, urge the federal government to invest in closing the implementation gaps, supporting services delivery capabilities in the water sector, and promoting greater integration of private sector into the water sector. Those in favor of prayer 3 say aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it. I want to thank Senator Dino for that. It's something that should be of great concern to us, and as a country, it is something that's very embarrassing if now decline is down from 32 to 7%. As we all know that any country, both health-wise and also development, there must be adequate water supply for all our population. So I hope the committee will take this work with the importance that it deserves and quickly carry out an investigation and try and particularly block the leakages and areas of corruption where projects being funded by donor agencies might also be on the budget of some of these agencies, and at the end of the day, that money is not well spent. But we need to get to the bottom of this and find a solution that will improve the water supply to our people. Yes, St. John Kui.
Mr. President, my distinguished colleagues, I'm coming under order 42 and 52. The matter for discussion shall, if possible, be referred to the President of the Senate before the commencement of the day's sitting, and the President of the Senate shall refuse to allow the claim unless he is satisfied that the matter is definite and urgent. Order 52, Mr. President. Notice shall not be dispensed within the case of a motion or in respect of any other proceedings for which notice is required except with the consent of the President of the Senate and the general assent of the senators present. Mr. President, I have made before you.
Distinguished colleagues, according to our rules, I need the leave for us to take the motion. Those in favor say aye. Those against say nay. Yes, the ayes have it. Carry on.
Thank you, Mr. President. Mr. President, distinguished colleagues, the motion is on the need for the Senate to acknowledge, take notice on the multiple communal disturbances, strife, killings that engulfed Kaduna State the last 3 weeks or so, that is from about 18th to the 31st of October of this year. The Senate note the motion moved on the floor of this Senate on the 24th of October on the Kaduna communal strife and killings. The Senate takes cognizance of the prayers of that particular motion, which were adopted by the Senate. The Senate further also notes with deep heart the unfortunate loss of life of the chief of Adara, Mr. Maiwadara Fel Galadima, who lost his life in the hands of his captors on the early morning hours of Friday the 26th of that October. The Senate is reminded that the late chief of Adara, Mr. Maiwadara Fel Galadima, earlier lost the lives of 4 of his aides, and of course, tens of people who lost their lives in the strife that occurred in the weeks between and after the kidnapping of the said traditional ruler within Kaswam Magani and Kaduna and environs. The Senate as well notes that government responded on the outbreak of the violence and killings by sending troops to Kaduna, for which the Senate in that motion gave its commendament. We also note, Mr. President, commendable the action of the Kaduna State government at the point of outbreak of that strife, where curfew was declared on Kaduna, its environs, and some key local governments where such problems erupted. Mr. President, the Senate further note matters of public importance that has become germane to the dates of the crisis and even after those crises as we are witnessing today. By way of emphasis, Mr. President, is the advent of the visit of Mr. President, Commander-in-Chief, to Kaduna State during the crisis for which, while in Kaduna, the Senate may need to observe that the President made comments that those violence shatter and divide people within their ranks. He indicated within the last 4 decades, Kaduna has experienced scores of bloody, ethno-religious strifes and conflicts, which have culminated in deepening the division, distrust, and suspicion among the citizenry in the state. Mr. President, the Senate further notes the most important preoccupation of government is the protection of lives and property as the primary constitutional duty of government. Therefore, where there is colossal failure constant dereliction of duty on the part of government, the atmosphere of advisory fear has thrown the population within Kaduna State into a lot of worry and economic activity that has been grinded to a stop. Further note, arrests that were made circumstantial to those crises, that there is possibility that most of the suspects in the recent Kasuan Magani, as in most other crises, were merely rounded up by the security forces, while the actual perpetrators of the heinous crimes are still at large. It is of note, Mr. President, strongly suspects that is the killer gang that operated at Kasuan Magani also carried out most likely kidnapping and murder of the Agom, Adara and others in that unfortunate incident. The Senate further notes that Mr. President, while in Kaduna, addressed and called for expanding equality of opportunities in the state. We dare say the primary cause, therefore, among others, of this strife is the clear disaffection, dissatisfaction in Kaduna State as part of the reasons. Further note that there is a lot of impunity and disregard for the rule of law and order in governance. Aware that Mr. President in his visit was approached with a request for the payment of 3.8 billion naira to enable Kaduna State government to achieve closure on settlement of displaced persons, payment of compensation of 2011 victims of and the reconstruction of destroyed properties. Mr. President, while supporting the request, the release of funds, in our own opinion, as requested by the state government, should take cognizance of the following items. Number one, establish how the first tranche of the 2.8 billion compensation from the federal government was earlier utilized by the state government. In doing so, it will do well to publish publicly an authentic list of all beneficiaries of such funds that were earlier released to the tune of 2.8 billion. Two, identify those that are yet to be compensated and the actual amount due to each victim. Three, identify the properties that need such reconstructions that has been indicated in such a claim. Mr. President, distinguished colleagues, during the President's visit, the Executive Governor indicated or stated, and I quote, that the root cause of crisis in the state was because of certain resentment driven by poverty and a sense of inequality. Mr. President, it is evident that we list the following as giving credence to part of that statement. One, the over 50,000 workers that have been justifiably or unjustifiably laid off in the last 3 years. Sadly, job creation remains a low priority in the state. 2, over 90% of sacked workers who have not been paid their entitlements several years after being laid off from such posts of duty. 3, political and economic opportunities in the state are limited exclusively to the ruling class and, of course, few that matter to attract the favor of government. Mr. President, by way of coming to a conclusion, we see during the visit of Mr. President that there was a media chat which the governor of the state drew the attention of the general public and indeed state at large that youths, especially within the state, will be employed through the medium of a civilian joint task force to create employment opportunities. On the joint task force, Mr. President, it is very germane and important that issues to do with the terms of engagement of such bodies as the civilian JTF becomes very, very key and important to the Senate. The Senate also notes that the activities of the so-called Civilian Joint Task Force within Kaduna State and other states in Nigeria calls for caution. The Senate also takes cognizance of some key questions pertaining to joint task forces within the jurisdiction of the law of the Federal Republic of Nigeria. Hence, the following questions, Mr. President, that need to be asked within the ambit of the law. What is a joint task force? Under what conditions can a joint task force be formed? Who has the power to form a civilian joint task force? What or under what provision of the Nigerian law in force does a civilian joint task force exist? Should there be or should there not be an inquiry on the activity of civilian joint task force when there are allegations of extrajudicial killings by such a body? What is the implementation or the limitation of armament or otherwise of civilian joint task force under this setting? Is the operation of any civilian joint task force, armed or unarmed, not to be synonymous to the issue of the state police? These questions, and so many, in our own opinion, Mr. President, need to be looked at. Hence, part of the reason why we draw the conclusions in some of our recommendations as prayers to this motion. I'll go to the prayers of the motion, Mr. President, with your permission, very quickly, that we call on the federal government to immediately form an independent judicial commission of inquiry into the Kasuan Magani crisis and eventual kidnapping and murder of the Agwam Adara, and why the dead were hurriedly buried in mass graves without adequate inquiry or inquest. 2, refer germane issues of civilian task force committees to the committees or to the relevant committee of the Senate on security to investigate on the extent to which a civilian task force will be allowed or otherwise. 3, establish the legal status of all JTF, civilian JTFs, particularly in operation in our country and particularly in Nigeria. 4, the Senate should send a delegation to condole the Adara chiefdom and the people of Kaduna State in general over the killings and particularly the loss of the life of the paramount ruler under question here, that is Mr. Maiwada Rafael. Mr. President, lastly, to request the Senate to give 1 minute silent respect of the departure of the souls of the people that lost their lives, and particularly the paramount ruler of Adara land who lost his life under that strike. I so move, Mr. President.
Thank you, Mr. President. I wholeheartedly share the spirit and the letters of this motion. I will not say much because the motion is so comprehensive that it becomes a narrative of the situation in Kaduna in the last 1 month. Mr. President, we must speak the truth in order to heal the wounds. Kaduna is a multi-religious and multi-ethnic state. The leadership in the state must demonstrate fairness, justice, and equity to people of all faiths. If you preside over a state that is multi-religious, you must demonstrate that you are presiding over a people irrespective of their faith and religious or ethnic background. No matter how we try to address the problems of Kaduna, as long as we are not just and fair to all in equal measure, I think we will not be having peace but an interval of war. From 1982 to 1987 to 1992 to 2002 and to what happened in the last few weeks, Kaduna has had enough of its fair share of religious violence. But divisive figures who preside over the affairs of the state cannot bring peace. We must demonstrate as elected political leaders that we are for all and we are also committed to all. Mr. President, the crisis that became violence in Kaduna is an issue that could have been tackled right from the onset. The governor of the state, the government of the state had the wherewithal to address this problem from the roots and from its infant stage, but it was not done. It was later the attention of the governor was on primary elections in Abuja, and the problems was building up in Kaduna. And now it catapulted and became a violence that consumed the lives of so many people. How can a first-class chief be so brutally murdered and his body dumped in a bush, and we are behaving as if nothing has happened? We should tell ourselves the truth. The violence in Kaduna is a religious violence, and it can be triggered by anything. We can say it that in the last 2 to 3 decades, people have not been living in peace with each other because they have been living apart. The northern part of the river is predominantly Muslims, and the southern part of the river is predominantly Christian. Any person who is relocating to Kaduna, the first order and the first interest he will have is where do people of my faith reside? So I believe that if we are to address the problem of Kaduna, it is not enough by declaring curfew, deploying troops, soldiers and policemen, and arresting some few miscreants. But we must demonstrate that as leaders of a multi-religious society, that we can be fair to the Christians as we can be fair to the Muslims. Muslims and Christians in the state can live in peace, but the leadership must demonstrate that they are for peace, they are for justice, and they are also for unity. It is only on the basis of equal treatment for people of all faiths and of ethnic and religious background that you can entrench peace. As a nation of Muslims and Christians and people of ethnic background, we are not held together by a national flag or national anthem or national pledge. We are held together by the spirit of oneness and the need for us to demonstrate fairness in what we do. The motion here narrated the problems, the crisis, and the bloodshed in Kaduna. But no matter how many times the president will come to Kaduna, no matter how many times monies will be given to compensate people, if you have leaders who have openly shown that they cannot be a unifying figure for all, we are simply wasting our time. Thank you very much.
Abuker.
Thank you very much, Mr. President, distinguished colleagues. My name is Abubakar Kari, Senator representing Borno North. In as much as I rise to support the motion moved by my colleague and subsequent comments by distinguished Senator Shehu Sani, I'd like to rise and also give credit to where credit is due. Mr. President, distinguished colleagues, I was born in Kaduna, and a better part of my life also I spent in Kaduna State. We all go down memory lane and know what has always been problems upon problems and the crisis that has rocked Kaduna over, especially the last 20 years. But Mr. President, my short presentation here is, I was extremely impressed by the proactive steps taken by the governor of Kaduna State. Apart from all what has been said, but I think such steps, if were not have been taken, I think the situation would have been of immense consequences. The imposition of a 24-hour curfew, in as much as it has stifled activities and has made people redundant, but it has averted a lot of crisis. And the proactive steps taken by the governor to practically man the roads and also supervise that the curfew is being enforced is also a commendable action. So I rise here, distinguished colleagues, to support what the governor has done. Because if he had not taken such steps, probably would have seen a repeat of what has happened in the past. Thank you.
I'll go to the prayers then. Prayer A, call on the federal government to immediately form an independent Judicial Commission of Inquiry into Kasumwa Magdalene crisis and eventual kidnapping and murder of Angwadara and why the dead were already buried in mass graves without adequate inquiries or inquest. Those in favor of prayer one say aye. Those against say nay. There is a prayer to refer the gaming issues of civilian JTF to the Committee of the Senate on Security to investigate to the extent to which the civilian JT be allowed or otherwise. Those in favor of prayer 2 say aye. Those against say nay. As I will. establish the legal status of all JTF, particularly the civilian JTF in operating the country, particular Kaduna State. Those in favor say aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it. Prayer for the Senate should send a delegation to condole the Adara chiefdom and the people of Kaduna State of the killings and violence, particularly gruesome killing of the chief of Adara, Mr. Mayawada Rafael Galadima. Those in favor of this prayer say aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it. Finally, take a 1 minute silent respect of the late Mr. Mayawada Rafael Galadima and all those who lost their lives in the fracas. Those in favor of this prayer say aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it. Can we now rise and observe 1 minute silence? So rest perfect. Leader of Senate.
Mr. President, very distinguished colleagues, the first business of the day is the presentation of the report of the ethics, privileges, and public petition in respect of a petition from Mr. Omnia Boss Odiri Austin against the Nigerian National Petroleum Corporation, NNPC, for alleged wrongful dismissal from the service of the corporation. Mr. President, with your permission, I wish to move the motion for the Senate to receive the report.
Senator Samayon.
Thank you, Mr. President, very distinguished colleagues. Samayan Imo East. Mr. President, distinguished colleagues, with the leave of the Senate, I move that the Senate do receive the report of the Committee on Ethics, Privileges and Public Petitions in respect of the petition from Mr. Omnibus Odiri Austin against the Nigerian National Petroleum Corporation, NNPC, for alleged wrongful dismissal from the service of the corporation. I so move, Mr. President.
Senator Binta Masi.
Mr. President, distinguished colleagues, my name is Binta Masi Garba, representing Adamano Senatorial Zone. I rise to second the motion ably moved by the Chairman, Ethics and Privilege. I so second. Thank you.
Distinguished colleagues, those in favor that the Senate do receive the report of the Committee on Ethics, Privileges and Public Petitions in respect of petition from Mr. Minabo Odiri Austin against the NNPC for alleged wrongful dismissal from the service of the corporation. Those in favor say aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it. Senator Samayo, come and lead the report. Leader of the Senate.
Mr. President, very distinguished colleagues, the second business of the day is the presentation of the report of the Committee on Tertiary Institutions and Test Fund on the Federal Polytechnic Langtang, Plateau State Establishment Etc. Bill 2018. Mr. President, you may wish to invite Senator Jibrin Barau, Chairman of the Committee, to move the motion for the Senate to receive the report.
Senator Barau Jibrin.
Thank you, Mr. President. I am Senator Barau Jibrin. I represent Kano North. Mr. President, I stand to move that this August Senate do receive the report of the Committee on Tertiary Institutions and Tech Fund on the Federal Polytechnic Lantam Plateau State Establishment ETC Bill 2018, SB 627. Mr. President, I so move.
Senator Stella Odua.
Thank you, Mr. President. Dear colleagues, Mr. President, I move to second that the report on the bill 2018 SB 627 be accepted. Thank you, Mr. President.
Distinguished colleagues, those in favor that the Senate do receive the report of the Committee on Tertiary Institutions and the Phone on the Federal Polytechnic Lantang Plateau State Establishment Structure Bill 2018 SB 627. Those in favor say aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it. Senator Barajibru, come and lead the report. Leader of the Senate.
Mr. President, very distinguished colleagues, the first order of the day is a motion standing in the name of Senator Clifford Odia and two others on the demise of Chief Dr. Tony Okakon Aneni CFR, the ESLE of Assam people. Mr. President, you may wish to invite Senator Clifford Odia to move the motion.
Senator Odia.
Mr. President, very distinguished colleagues, my name is Senator Clifford Odia, representing Edo Central Senatorial District. Mr. President, my very dear colleagues, with heavy hearts, I rise to move motion on the demise of Chief Tony Okakon Aneni, CFR, the ESLE of Assam people. The Senate knows the time-tested words of the legendary Martin Luther King when he said, an individual has not begun to live until he can rise above the narrow horizon of his particular individualistic concerns to the broader concern of all humanity. This statement, my dear colleagues, briefly defines the life and times of the man, Chief Tony Okakon Aneni, who transited to eternal glory as announced by his family on the 28th day of October 2018 at the ripe and fulfilled age of 85 years. Senate recalls that Chief Tony Okakon Aneni was born in Uzenema, Arwe, a quarter in Uromi, headquarters of Assam Northeast Local Government area of Edo State, on the 4th day of August 1933. The Senate further recalls that Chief Tony Aneni, despite his humble background, attended government primary school, Uromi, and later joined the Nigeria Police Force in 1951 in Benin City after obtaining his secondary school certificate. He was admitted into what was then known as the Southern Police College Ikeja, now known as the Nigerian Police College Ikeja. As one of the best trainees, he was selected for further training in Hendon Police Training School, United Kingdom in 1963, the Brownhill College, Basingstoke in Hemisphere, England, 1966, and the International Police Academy in Washington, D.C. in 1970. Senate is aware that Chief Tony Aneni began his national service when he served as the police orderly to the first indigenous Governor General of Nigeria, Dr. Nnamdi Azikiwe. He served in various capacities all through the nooks and crannies of Nigeria as a fine officer and gentleman. He served in Nigerian Police Force meritoriously and retired voluntarily in 1976. Senate is aware that before venturing into politics in 1979, Chief Tony Aneni established chains of businesses ranging from supermarkets in Warri, chemists in Benin City, electronic shop in Enugu, sales of frozen meat in Bauchi, oil palm import and car mart also in Benin. He was a successful businessman. Several recognizes that Chief Tony Aneni commenced his political career as a sympathizer and financier of the defunct National Party of Nigeria, NPN, and rose to the position of the state chairman of the party, the then Bendel, now Edo and Delta. He was instrumental to the election of Dr. Samuel Saibovo Gbemudia as governor of Bendel State in 1983. The Senate recognizes further that Chief Tony Aneni joined other prominent and well-meaning Nigerians to form the then Social Democratic Party in 1991, where he once again brought his political dexterity and tactics to bear for the election of Chief John Odije Oyego as the governor of Edo State. He later rose to the position of the national chairman and did for Chief Mko Abiola what he did for Oyego in Edo State, leading to the election of Mko Abiola as the President of the Federal Republic of Nigeria. However, that election and the democratic process was unlawfully terminated by the then military administration. The Senate further recognizes further that he served as a member of the Constitutional Conference, which mandate was to determine the way forward for Nigeria. The Senate recognized that Chief Tony Aneni was one of the few patriots of Nigeria who came together to form the People's Democratic Movement, the PDM, which later transformed to the People's Democratic Party, PDP, which won in 1999, 2003, 2007, 2011 general elections, and which by the special grace of God will win, and the will of the Nigerian people will win again in 2019. Senate is aware that Chief Tony Aneni served in different challenging capacities as one of the foremost leaders in the party, a political colossus and a tactician. No wonder he deployed his compelling intelligence, strategies, and uncommon tactics to ensure several victories for the party in presidential, governorship, national assembly, state houses of assembly, local government chairmen and councillors across Nigeria, so much so that he was referred to as Mr. Fix-It. He did fix political and socio-economic problems. He served as the chairman of Board of Trustees twice and was acknowledged and referred to as national leader of the party. Sunday is mindful that Chief Tony Aneni, as a result of his commitment and dedication to duty, was generally accepted as a leader. He earned and respect the friendship of all prominent Nigerian leaders who called him and referred to him as the national leader. This he attested to in his book, My Life and the Nigerian Politics, where he said, "My past records and antecedents shows clearly that I have always led well, and those I have led appreciate my leadership qualities. If such people refer to me as leader, of course, I will accept it. It is by acceptance and not something I bought from the market." He further said, "I earned it, I did not buy it, I did not seize it or force it on people." Chief Tony Aneni, on his death, was truly a political icon, a common leader, and pathfinder. Senate knows that Chief Tony Aneni was not only a loving husband and consummate father of all, he was a bridge builder. He detribalized Nigeria with uncommon courage, vision, and capacity to deliver on promises. He was kind, truthful, and above all, very generous. He is never tired of giving either in cash or kind. In the course of his service to this nation, as a politician and one-time Honorable Minister of Works, Chief Tony Aneni have to his credit so many physical policies, plans, and implemented projects which will endure beyond this generation. As a minister, he accorded priority to road construction and maintenance of vital roads to enhance economic growth, social interaction. Senators are aware that he initiated the policy for the establishment of FEMA, Federal Road Maintenance Agency, FEMA. Also, to his credit are the following: the Eastern Bypass in Kaduna, the rehabilitation of Mina, Western Bypass, rehabilitation of Oka, Agulu, Ekuloba, Uga to Imo State border, rehabilitation of Abakaliki, Afikpo Road, Ikot Abasi, Edet Road, Auchi, Epoma, Aganebode Road, Ida Anyangba Road, the Kina Shintaku Road, Beniyam Shendam Road, and host of others. Construction of 48-kilometer Lagos-Benin bypass, construction of Epoma, Ilushi Road, construction of Federal Secretariat in the city, and establishment of National Institute of Professional Technology and Management, Uromi, etc., etc. The Senate recounts his well-deserved honor, awards, and recognition. 1. Commander of the Order of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, CFR. The Iyasele of Isaland, the Prime Minister of Eastern People, Doctor of Laws, Honoris Causa, University of Benin, LLB degree, Benin University, Benin, DSC Honorary degree, University of Science and Technology, Port Harcourt, DSC Honorary degree, and Bali University, Epoma. The Senate contends that late Chief Tony Aneni, CFRO, was indeed a great and fearless man who served Nigeria and the entire humanity with all that he had. As a youth, he served. As a man, he served. At old age, he served. I am convinced he's serving even in death, as humanity have something to learn from the life and time of this great uncommon Nigerian, and therefore deserve to be honored and recognized. Justice. The Senate accordingly resolved to 1. Observe a minute silence in his honor. 2. Send a high-powered delegation of this hallowed chamber to pay a condolence visit to his family in Abuja and Uromi, and the people and government of Edo State. 3. Accord him all the official burial rights due such Nigerian figure who serve with such honor and diligence. And finally, Mr. President, all the federal government to name the National Institute of Professional Technology and Management, Uromi, after late Chief Tony Aneni, CFR. I so move, Mr. President, distinguished colleagues.
Mr. President.
DSP.
Thank you, Mr. President. Very distinguished colleagues. Yesterday, I accompanied the Senate President to condole with the family of late Chief Tony Aneni. Today, I'm delighted to be seconding the motion, heavily moved by our dear friend and brother and colleague, and I agree with him entirely on all the sentiments expressed about Chief Aneni. He's called leader. It can be a nickname. He earned the title leader. And he leads from the front. If it's with you, you know he's with you. If it's not with you, you also know it's not with you. If Aneni promises to help, we deliver it. And if he wants to support you, it is quite obvious. He was indeed a nationalist. He has friends across the country and all over the world. And at all times, he displayed patriotism. He was a friend of the National Assembly and the Parliament, and he has supported the executive-legislature relationship at all times. He had to mediate at a very critical time in the life of the National Assembly in trying to improve the relationship between the National Assembly and the executive of this country. Tifanini is a true politician, or was a true politician. And when you hear that politicians don't sleep, Anini is a typical example of a politician who doesn't sleep. If you call him by 12 a.m., he's there. You call him by 2, he'll answer you. You call by 5 a.m., he'll be there. I recall one incident, I believe in the year 2001, when I was the chief of staff in the new government. And we were pursuing a particular political issue. And he wanted me to bring a report from Enugu before 7 a.m. the next morning, because he wanted it to be on the network news, the 7 a.m. network news. So at about 11 p.m. the day before that, he had called me to find out how far I had gone with the document. I told him I was ready. He said, how will I get it to him before 7 a.m.? I said, sir, the problem will be whether you're awake to wait for me. He said he wasn't sleeping, and he would not sleep until I come. So I left Enugu at about 12 midnight, drove on through the night, and about 5:30, I was at his gate. And when we tried to draw the attention of the security details that were there, Chief Anani was also standing by the door waiting for me. I delivered the document to him. I had breakfast in his house. While waiting for the breakfast, the news was also on the 7 o'clock news. That is Chief Anani for you. So I believe that one thing we need to learn about this man is to be steadfast, to be true to our friends, and identify our enemies, and pursue whatever goal we believe in. And if doing so, would have done so much and paid the appropriate tribute to the late Chief Anani. I do pray that God will provide more Chief Anani to us. I know he may have his flaws, but I think if it's a balance sheet, we've gained more in terms of his attributes and his contribution to nation building. Before I sit down, sir, just for our records, the issue of the Federal Road Maintenance Agency is to go on record that it was a private member bill of late Dr. Kadibo, who was a senator here. Yes, it happened when Anini was Minister of Works. So, but I think it is to the glory of God that that they should be identified with late Chief Kadibo. Anini was also interested in implementing the bill, but actually, as Minister for Works, but actually it was the brainchild of late Dr. Kadibo, and we must place it appropriately in our history books. Thank you.
Senator Binta Masi Garba.
Thank you, Mr. President, distinguished colleagues. My name is Binta Masi Garba, Adamano Senatorial Zone. I rise in total submission to this great motion as we stand this hour to talk about a man that has been described as a destabilized Nigeria, a pathfinder, and a political icon. Indeed, I am one of those that has benefited from the benevolence of late Daddy Anini. I called him Daddy because an incident happened in 2000, my first encounter with late Daddy Anini as a Minister of Works and Housing. Because of a project or a program of the then Obasanjo's administration tagged PAP, that means Poverty Alleviation Program. And I went and I met this gentleman. And when I saw that he's of age at that point in time, I prostrated and I said, Daddy, good afternoon. And since then, he has been a daddy to me, and I have seen a lot of his advices that he has advised me as a child at that point in time. I met with him some couple of months before he died, when he introduced me to his new wife. I said, this is your mother. And I never knew that was going to be the last time I'm going to see him. When I heard of his demise, I know that a vacuum not only to the family has been created, but even to me as we can't run away from death. A time is accorded for one to be born, and a time, obviously, for one to die. But in between death and the time you live is a line, and that line stands to show what impact you have made to humanity. And I think Daddy Anini has impacted not only in my life, a woman from Adamawa State and somebody from Edo State, from the northeastern part to the south part of Nigeria. And we surely believe that I am one out of the millions that he has affected my life politically, socially, and financially. And I know definitely we're here to mourn a great man. And I think it calls for a time for sober reflection. Today we are here alive, we don't know who the next person will be. But this gentleman, a father, to me is a great loss. And I only pray that God will grant the family the fortitude to bear this great loss. Daddy, and anywhere wherever you are, I said adieu. Thank you, Mr. President.
Leader. $145. Okay, Senator Goji.
Oh, because you want to speak? All right, 145.
Mr. President, I believe in precision, not estimation. Mr. President, distinguished colleagues, I move that we suspend our order 13 to enable the Senate to sit beyond 2 o'clock. I so move.
Mr. President, distinguished colleagues, I second the motion as moved.
Those in favor of the motion say aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it. Senator Daniel Maguji.
Thank you, Mr. President. I am Mohammed Njimo Goje from Gombe Center. I stand to join the other who have spoken in honor of our late leader, Tony Anini. Like Senator Binta said, I am also one of those who benefited immensely from his advice, support, and guidance. I knew him closely from June 1999 when we were appointed ministers. There were senior ministers, elders, and were younger people in the cabinet, and he took me like his son. And I remember one day I went to his office. He said, "What brought you, minister?" I said, "Yes, sir. I came from a village where my village produced big people. My village produced a military governor who served under Gawon for 7 years. My village also produced a minister of mines and power under Shagari who served for 4 years. But my village was not motorable. In spite of the fact that we had a governor and minister, my road was just seasonal road. And I told him, sir, I didn't want to join those big people as one of those who serve as minister, and yet I could not reach my village. He said, yes, my son, you'll get a road. And he kept his word. and I have a metro road to my place now. Not only that, when somehow, for reasons that I will not disclose, me and the Senate President and others were shown the way out from Obasanjo's government on the same day. He was one of those who came to condole me in my house. He told me that, my son, don't worry. You have a brighter future. God will be with you. And he kept his words. He encouraged me through advice, through support, moral, financial, otherwise, to become the governor of Gombe State. And I served for 8 years. I remain eternally grateful to him. And I know there are many, many Nigerians like me who have benefited in one or another from his wisdom, support, and benevolence. You hate him, you like him, you have to like him because he normally kept his word. His words are his words. And once he said he would do something, he will make sure I guess it. That's why he was given the name Mr. Fix It. Whether correctly or not correctly, he used to fix issues according to the way they need to be fixed at the time they had to be fixed. So I met him lastly about 3 months ago. And despite the fact that we were from different political parties, was PDP, I am APC. But he was being an elder. When I heard he was not well, I had to go and greet him. I went to his house and I saw him. He was in bad shape. I was virtually in tears. But you know, when you go to a sick man, you don't cry because that will discourage him. But I was in tears inside me. And that was my last time of seeing him. I prayed for him. I prayed that God gave him the strength to recover. But God, in his own way, loves him more than we love him. He took him away. So I join the mover of this motion. Whatever honor is going to be given him, let it be given to him. But I want to, before I sit down, I want to say the mover of the motion seemed to confine his contribution mainly to his own locality. It's not, representation is not national enough. It's not national. He has touched the lives of many people across the country. Look at the speakers now. Peter from Adama and from Gombe, he's from Edo. Everywhere, Igbo, Yoruba, Hausa, everywhere, Chuanini was master of all. So this honor of honoring him in Oromi, I think is not good enough. Although we have not come to the prayers, but he needs to be, he deserves to be honored for Nigeria, preferably in Abuja here nationally, because he deserves it. If there's one Nigeria that will be remembered for a long time in Nigerian politics, it is Chipton and Nini. Adieu. And I hope and pray to Allah to give the family the virtue to bear the loss. Thank you very much.
Senator Matthew Rogidi.
Thank you, Mr. President. Mr. President, my distinguished colleagues, I still remain Senator Matthew Rogidi. I represent all the good people of Edo South Central District and Edo State. Mr. President, distinguished colleagues, a lot has been said about our leader, our father, the Chief Tony Aneni. First, I want to thank all my colleagues that have spoken very glowingly about our departed leader. But Mr. President, I think it is important at this juncture that I lend my voice to all those that have extolled his virtues. And of course, it would be unfair of me not to mention one or two things about our departed leader and father. Mr. President, it has been said very sumptuously by my very distinguished colleagues that Mr. Aneni, late Chief Aneni, was a very benevolent man. In fact, words will not just be enough to describe his benevolence. Chief Aneni, to me, today a whole lot I owe to him, particularly during 2015 elections. My colleague and I, my brother, Senator Clifford Odia, with whom I co-sponsored this motion, we were in the fix during the election. Just before the election, we had problems. Chief Aneni bailed us out financially. After the elections, when we were taken to court, we had problems having to contend with our legal fees. Chief Aneni was the one who paid part of that bill for us without any solicitation for such assistance. In fact, to very many of us, even across this divide, Chief Aneni was indeed kind to all of us. We know that one virtue of his that has not been mentioned here today is that Chief Aneni was a respecter of constitutional authorities. No matter the age, if you had authority on your side, even as a government official, Chief Aneni would accord you all the respect. I never saw it that any government official, even those that were underaged, that visited his residence, that he did not see them up to the car. And I remember only a few weeks ago when the Senate President went to see him in company of myself and my colleague, Senator Odia. When he was outside his house waiting to receive us because of the authority around the Senate President. In fact, after the discussion, he saw him up here to the door. I had noticed that about him very many years, even before that last experience. Indeed, Chief Tony Aneni was one great man. I am aware that the word Mr. Fix-It, or the appellation that was devised or designed for him, oftentimes was understood in the negative. But because of a very positive posture and determination to always achieve results, positive results, Chief Aneni was one person who never believed anything was impossible. He will pursue it with all vehemence, with all vigor. That, of course, will elicit, achievements. When we were campaigning for elections, Chief Aneni never one time mentioned it to us that elections could be rigged. Rather, he would say that you must go from room to room, house to house to campaign, so that you can get the votes from the people. And all through the time he was there, commanding the political forces in our political horizon, he did a whole lot to instill discipline in the party. So, Mr. President, my very distinguished colleagues, this is one man who came, who fought, of course, who conquered. And I pray that we are going to have a lot of Nigerians that will be in this mood, that we're able to pursue our politics, particularly our partisan politics, across lines that when the time comes for us to transit, we will be able to leave our own feet in the sand of times, and it will be said that we live well. So I want to join all his admirers across the length and breadth of this country to wish him well where he is, and of course for our good Lord to accept him in his bosom, now and forever. Thank you very much. God bless you.
Senator Porker.
Mr. President, I join others to contribute to the tribute of this great man. In summary, Mr. President, Chief Tony Aneni of blessed memory was a great son of this country. He was great indeed. He was a tribalized Nigerian. He was generous. I have cause to meet him on a few occasions, and in those occasions, you cannot fault him as a leader, as a father. God knows best that he calls him back to glory at a period this country requires such great men who will say the truth, and then he will look at you at the face and tell you the truth. If he doesn't like your views, he will express it. But if he likes it, he will support you. He dines with both the low and those at the top ladder. With his privileged position, and then he will say, sit side by side with you and discuss with you as if you are mates. I recall vividly, Mr. President,
About 6 months ago, when he wanted to know something from me, he told me, he called me on phone and said, Senator Parker, I'm coming to your house to ask you about something. I said, Daddy, you are not the person to come to my house. Summon me at any time you want me to come. And I dropped the phone, and behold, I just drove to his house and met him. That shows humility in spite of the gap in terms of social structure that Anini has with me. He was very willing to drive down to my house. So talking about Tunanini, we'll spend all the day talking about him. And like my colleague Goje mentioned, he's someone that was not restricted to his state. In fact, we'll do him a lot of disservice if we restrict the tributes of Tunanini to a particular zone of this country. Indeed, he was a nationalist to the core. And so Nigeria today has lost a gem, a rare gem, that we require in the troubled state of this country as it stands today. I join others in saying that you, Chief Tunanini, rest in perfect peace wherever you are, and I know you are resting in the bosom of the Lord. Thank you, Mr. President, for giving me the privilege.
Minority Leader.
Thank you very much, Mr. President, distinguished colleagues. Mr. President, I rise to add my voice to those of our colleagues that have spoken well of our leader, Chief Tony Aneni. Mr. President, almost everything has been said of this great man. For once in my life, I met a leader who treated people as if they were human beings. Chief Aneni, even without knowing you, would treat you well. He will defer to you at every point. Chief Aneni was such a thoroughly good man. In these days where people say politics is very dirty, Chief Aneni was a man who would face issues and say them as they were. He was not egocentric. Most people today, if they have his wealth and his intellect, would be extremely egocentric. They will be untouchable, unreachable, but you could sit with him and discuss with him even the mundane, and he would advise you accordingly. He was such a great man. He loved country. He loved his family. He loved God. But most especially, he loved his political associates. He was a committed member of the People's Democratic Party. And he did everything to ensure that the party was alive to its responsibilities. He did everything to ensure that we bonded where it mattered the most. And he did everything to ensure that there was fairness, transparency, and, of course, justice as much as possible. We will all miss Chief Aneni, but we have lessons to learn from him. The lessons are very few. That as we go on in life, we must be able to subsume self and be less egocentric and know that at the end of it all, no matter what you get, death is imminent and final. And of course, be civil and nice to everyone you meet. He earned his title, the leader. It was not bought. People gave it to him. And that is how leaders, especially political leaders, must aspire to lead well so that people will confer on them titles that are commensurate with the work they are doing. We lost our Mr. Fix-It. We lost our great leader. We wish him easy passage, and we commiserate with the family. We pray that God in his infinite mercies will grant him eternal rest. Thank you, Mr. President.
Distinguished colleagues, we go to the prayers. Prayer 1, observe 1 minute silence in his honor. Those in favor say aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it. Prayer 2, send a high-powered delegation of this hallowed chamber to pay condolence visit to his family in Abuja, Romani, and people and government of the Edo State. Distinguished colleagues, whilst we're period of the oversight, myself and the Deputy Senate President, a number of senators have paid a visit to him in Abuja, though we have no delegation has gone to, so maybe we change that to just those going to Romania and the people of the government of Edo State. If we agree, we can amend that prayer also. So those in favor of prayer 2, say aye. Those against, say nay. The ayes have it. Prayer 3, according mode of share prayer rights due to such national figure who serve with such honor and diligence. Those in favor of prayer 3, say aye. Those against, say nay. The ayes have it. And prayer 4, urge the federal government to name the National Institute of Construction Technology and Management after late Chief Tony and NCFR. Those in favor of prayer 4, say aye. Those against, say nay. The ayes have it. Well, let us stand and observe 1 minute silence in his honor. So rest in perfect peace. Amen. Me, on behalf of the 8th Senate, commiserate with the Anene family, government, people of Edo State. All has been said by our colleagues in recognition of a great Nigerian, consummate politician, committed statesman who gave a lot and who touched the lives of many people all across the country, who's learned from his wisdom. We all did. I personally, all along, have worked closely with him and learned a lot from him and many of us. And it's a great loss, especially now as we're going through another significant election at a time, to have a man with so much understanding. As we said, may the Almighty grant him place in paradise and give strength and solidarity to his family to be able to bear loss. Leader of the Senate.
Mr. President, very distinguished and respected colleagues, the second order of the day is a motion standing in the name of Senator Mao Ohuabunwa on the growing crisis in the National Health Insurance Scheme, NHIS, and the National Primary Health Care Developing Agency. Mr. President, you recall that yesterday, Tuesday, the 6th of November 2018, the Senate via Order 42 sub 2 of our standing order approved that this motion be moved on the next legislative day, which is today. Accordingly, you may wish to invite Senator Mao Ohuabunwa to move his motion.
Senator Mao Ohuabunwa.
Thank you, Mr. Senate President, Senator Mao Ohuabunwa. Thank you for the opportunity to bring this important motion after this tribute to a political colossus, a true nationalistic leader, not my majority or minority leader, but a true national leader. And I want to thank you for this opportunity to speak after tribute to a colossus. Mr. President, this is a motion, the growing crisis in the National Health Insurance Scheme and the National Primary Health Care Development Agency. The Senate, aware of its constitutional role to periodically embark on oversight functions of the ministries, departments, and agencies of the federal government for the purpose of enthroning good governance, probity, reducing high-handedness of operators, eliminating corruption, and improving overall efficiency. Senate conscious that many of our public agencies today have moved away from direct focus on serving the citizens, advancing economic and social development, to furthering impunity that border on personality cults, and this certainly run counter to the objectives of the federal government. Senate further aware that major crises have been brewing in the National Health Insurance Scheme, NHIS, over allegations of high-handedness, budget distortion, fraudulent cost manipulation, illegal investment, and unprofessional manipulation of the human resources of the agency. All these being issues that have pitched NHIS against its employees and its board, while jeopardizing the interests of the general public. Senate are aware also that the same situation is also applicable in the National Primary Health Care Development Agency, where the executive director has been accused of high-handedness, reckless spending in the purchase of unwanted vehicles, intimidation and unwarranted transfer of senior staff members without regards to due process. Conscious of the fact that these unguarded executive and administrative processes pervading our public agencies, if not verified, checked and redirected for good, the important roles of our public agencies in advancing the economic, social, and general well-being of our citizens will be seriously impaired. And our nascent democracy will gradually lose its steam to emerging impunity of government-appointed self-serving titans, now looming large. Mr. President, the Senate accordingly resolved to just one prayer, Mr. President, direct the Joint Senate Committee on Primary Health Care and Communicable Diseases and the Health Committee to wade into the emerging crisis of confidence and corruption in NHIS and MPHDA, so as to thoroughly investigate the matter and other infractions and report to the Senate its findings within 2 weeks. Mr. President, I move, and I believe that you know that this matter is seriously urgent, as you are aware that NHS was cordoned off by workers for more than about a week, and the crisis also brewing MPCD, if not nipped right now, will create a serious and impact problem and impact negatively on our healthcare sector, which we are trying to build. So I move and urge my colleagues to support this one prayer motion. Thank you, Mr. President.
Gershon Bassey.
Thank you, Mr. President. Gershon Bassey, Cross River South. I stand to second the motion ably moved by Senator Mao. I so second.
Distinguished colleagues, put the prayer. Those in favor of the prayer say aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it. The Committee on Primary Health Care to ensure that this investigation is carried out thoroughly and come back to us within 2 weeks. Leader of the Senate.
Mr. President, very distinguished colleagues, the third order of the day is a motion standing in the name of Senator Danju Mogboje and 18 others on the rescission and reconsideration of the Senate approval of supplementary budget for Independent National Electoral Commission and security agencies for the conduct of the 2019 general elections. Mr. President, you may wish to invite Senator Danju Mogboje to move the motion.
Senator Goji.
Thank you, Mr. President. I am Mohammed Njuma Goji, representing Government Central. I stand to move this motion that the Senate should recall the approval of the environment and supplementary budget for ANEC and security agencies for the conduct of 2019 general elections in the sum of 242,245,050,100 naira only, which is to be funded from the service-wide vote on the 16th of October 2018 to the referring to Senate Resolution S/RS/027/04/8. Aware that because of some obvious and eminent issue of national socio-economic importance, the environment/supplementary request cannot be implemented as earlier approved. Accordingly resolves to 1. Resign and reconsider its approval of the request as contained in the said resolution in line with Order 53.6 of the standing order. 2. Approve the sum of 242,245,050,100 naira only as reflected at the table below. The table itemizes the revised amount in favor of ANEC, National Office of National Security Advisor, DSS, NSCDC, Nigeria Police Force, Nigeria Immigration Service, to the tune of the same amount. 3. Approve the source of fund from ministries, departments, and agencies, MDS, and the service-wide vote as contained in the table below, and the attached details. The details are here, but the summary is the money will be divided into 2. Half of the money will be divided from the ministries and agencies listed, number 1 to 30, totaling 121,122,555,005 naira. The same amount will be divided from the service-wise vote to the same amount of 121,122,525,005 naira only. So if the Senate approves, this amount will be divided from 2 sources, from the MDS and from the service-wide vote, the same amount that will total to the amount of 245,000,000 and 50 naira, 50,100 naira, all in all. So, Mr. President, distinguished colleagues, I so move for the approval of this motion as presented.
Senator Dinumilai. Okay, who is seconding? Yes, Senator Matthew Rogide.
Thank you very much, Mr. President. My distinguished colleagues, Senator Matthew Rogide. I rise to second the motion ably moved by my chairman, Appropriation Committee, Senator Donjima Goje. I so second.
Senator Dinumilai.
Mr. President, my respected colleagues, Dino Milai, Kogi West. Mr. President, I've looked at this environment using my Christian goggles, and I'm very satisfied with both sources of funds and the environment proper. But I have an issue with the appropriation of over 27 billion to the Nigerian police force. Mr. President, for the purpose of election. We had elections in Anambra where over 20,000 policemen were deployed. We had elections in Ekiti where over 25,000 policemen were deployed. We had elections in Osun where over 25,000 policemen were deployed. Because these were isolated elections, Mr. President, there was no violence. And this number of policemen were deployed to those places. We do not even know how those deployments were funded. Now what we have is general elections, Mr. President, where there will be no massive deployment of police. Policemen will all remain in their catchment areas because it's a national election where everybody will be within his area of operations. If we did not fire when we were moving over 20,000 people to various states for elections, why are we now providing 27 billion in this Buhari era, where Nigerians are hungry, where poverty is pervasive, where our hospitals has become mere consulting clinics? ASU is making demands on daily basis. Nigerian workers are asking for increase in salary. We want to allocate or appropriate 27 billion for an election where there will be no massive deployment of policemen. There will only be movement of policemen from within a particular state, if need be. So I want to say, Mr. President, we will be doing a lot of injustice to Nigerians who are unemployed, to Nigerians who need money to fight hunger, to fix our hospitals, to fix our roads, to provide potable water for the masses of this country, in appropriating 27 billion just for the purpose of monitoring and providing security by the Nigerian police for elections. Already, it's not just Nigerian police that provisions were made for. There's provision for DSS, there's provision for NSCDC, but 3 billion is okay. For DSS, 10 billion is even permissible, but to provide 27 billion for an election that is not isolated, that is taking place in the entire this whole country. Already the police have their budget for security in this country. We made appropriations for the Nigerian police. Why are we now making a special allocation of 27 billion when these people already have provisions already in the 2018 budget for carrying out the policing of this country? I want to believe that, Mr. President, we should have a look at this colossal amount of money so that we do not provide chop and stealing for some people. This money should rather be fired, but should be appropriated for the masses, where the masses of this country will benefit directly from the impact of this money. Mr. President, I raise very severe objection to the appropriation of 27 billion. I feel it is too high. It is not going to serve any purpose. You may decide to give something to the police, but not in the proportion of 27 billion naira. Mr. President, I so speak.
Yes, Ntuguji.
Thank you, Mr. President. If you have understood my motion, the only thing we introduced, which is different from what we passed on the 16th of October, is the source of funding. Initially, the source of funding was to come from service-wide votes, but now we reduced the wage from service-wide by half, and the other half is coming from this MDS. Otherwise, this Senate took a decision and approved this amendment. But that, be that as it may, the submission from Mr. President for the police was even over 30 billion. It was the appropriation committee that reduced about 3 billion and added to some other agencies. I want to correct the impression being created by the last speaker, Mr. President, that there will be no mobilization. We all know how elections are conducted in this country. As a former governor, I knew that in my state, in general elections, police were mobilized. All the police headquarters had to be deployed to the various polling units. Virtually every polling unit must have police to ensure peace and stability. This is not for free. It's not for free. They are provided vehicles, they are provided allowances, and I'm sure this amount is even very small. The police is not even happy with this amount, but all the same, the first point I gave, which was already approved by Senate, which the House yesterday already approved, which is now waiting for this final approval for the money to be sold so that proper election will be done for this election, proper preparation will be done. I believe this is justified. In any case, we hope and pray and look up to the police and other security agencies for very peaceful elections. free and fair and transparent and peaceful election. This can only be achieved if there is enough funding for all the security agencies. So, Mr. President, for me, I want to urge my colleagues, in as far as we all love our masses, we love them, we serve them, we want them to be very happy with us, we want them to have water, to have schools, to have hospitals, but we also want them to live in peace through these elections. And therefore, this money, I think, is justified. So, Mr. President, I want my colleagues to not to take the last argument seriously and go ahead and approve my submission. Thank you.
Which others? No. Let's go to your seat. You can't speak from the distinguished colleagues. I think the best way we should do this is that there's no doubt that the police needs this funding, and I don't think that should be the issue here. If we are questioning how they've applied their funding, I think that's a totally different issue. We have a committee on police which we can give the assignment to look into how the last two elections, how have police used the funding for those two elections. Those are two separate issues. That will meet what you are trying to raise, the issues you have raised, while at the same time we fund it for the executive for this election. If you agree with me, I think that's a better way for us to move forward. Let us pass this budget as it is, but at the same time we mandate even if it needs to be, we can even mandate a committee of police and other security agencies to look at how the police have applied funds that they've used in previous elections. I mean, if I have the support of the members, we can take that as a prayer at the end of the day, and then we can go back to this. So let us first take these. Yes.
Clarification, please. Under the Ministry of Women Affairs, what was deducted is 319,699. I was thinking that most of the intervention, zonal intervention project of members, zonal intervention, some of the projects are domiciled in the Ministry of Women Affairs. Is it going to affect the zonal intervention project of members?
We've gone through that and distinguished. Let us make progress. Prayer 1, to those in favor of prayer 1 say aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it. Those in favor of prayer 2 to approve the sum of 242,245,050,100 say aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it. And then prayer 3 to approve the source of funds from the ministries, departments, agencies, and service-wide votes as contained in the table below as detailed. Those in favor of that say aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it. Thank you. Then I think also in line with what I agreed, we also direct that the committee of police and security to look into the way the police have used the funds of the last two elections and give us a report also within the next 2 weeks, and that will guide us in this going forward. Leader of the Senate. Yes, Senator Gubri. Yeah.
Thank you very much, Your Excellency. My name is Senator Ibrahim Gubri, representing Sokoto East. Order 53.6, sir. It shall be out of order to attempt to reconsider any specific question upon which the Senate has come to a conclusion during the current session, except when a substantive motion for decision. Your Excellency, if you could remember, about 40 minutes ago, there was a motion presented by Dino Malak on water resources, sustainable development, SDG, environment, and also, let's say, health. And because of that, I feel referring this matter to a single committee, like Committee of Water Resources, it will not be good. but there is need to have an ad hoc committee that will adequately trash this issue. So I therefore move that we should have an ad hoc committee to go ahead and investigate this motion that was actually presented by Dino Malak. I so move, Your Excellency. No, they did. I have quoted that one. Yes, I did. I did. Yes? Yes, yes. Then after the order, then I now move. No. It is in order.
It's out of order.
No, it is in order.
Senator Mao.
Not. Mr. President, I don't know whether it will require a second, but because he brought a point of order, and the point of order is that he's bringing a motion for the Senate to rescind its decision, which is in order. And on that note, Mr. President, I stand to second the motion that the Senate rescinds its decision in nominating ad hoc committee to handle the case instead of committee on water resources, because it's a more serious issue, and I believe that an ad hoc committee will do it better than the committee on water.
Distinguished colleagues, I think it has come under a motion just for us to agree that we should rescind the earlier decision based on the fact that he's saying that it is beyond just water. There are other committees that should come into it. So those in favor say aye, those against say nay. The ayes have it. So we'll get a committee together to look into that. Leader of the Senate.
Mr. President, very distinguished colleagues, having gone this far, I move that we stand down the consideration of all other items on the order paper till another legislative day.
Mr. President, I rise to second the motion ably moved by the leader. I so second.
Distinguished colleagues, those in favor of the motion say aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it. Just announcement, the ad hoc committee on this motion raised by the minority leader on the poverty alleviation program or special poverty fund, to be headed by Senator Gobri as chairman, Senator Shehu Sani member, Senator Abaribe member, Senator Danjuma Goji member, Senator Dino Milai member, Senator Rugidi member, and Senator Ashafa member. Then also some announcements on chairman. Senator Gumal Lawal will now be chairman federal character, Senator Ndume establishment, Senator Tijani Kara police, and Senator Abu Ibrahim labor. The Senate is currently adjourned till Thursday, 8 November 2018, 10 a.m. prompt.
It's been an intensive, purposeful and rewarding deliberations by the legislators. We want to specially thank you for being part of today's plenary. It is our utmost desire that you join us tomorrow, same time. Until then, please do remember that the greatest strength in mankind lies in unwavering unity. I am Christy Ewodage saying goodbye.